Hey guys, Rominating Reaper here. So it's a fairly grey Saturday afternoon outside the cinema, and we're making it out of the grid with this one. Yeah, I'm about to head in to see Tron Ares, starring my most favourite actor, Jared Leto. In fairness though, the trailers for this have looked good. I've really liked the look of the visuals. Obviously it's Tron, so it's going to be a great visual experience. Plus 9 Inch Nails doing the soundtrack. This is definitely going to be an absolute, like, audio-visual treat on the big screen. The only way to find out if it's actually any good is to head in, get some snacks, and get seated for Tron Ares. Alright, in. Let's go get that light cycle combo. Alright, here we go. Let's go cut that combo. Let's go see Tron. I've got my popcorn here and a Coca-Cola, plus the topper in the light cycle combo, ready to watch the grid come to the real world. So obviously you saw the popcorn bucket and cup from the light cycle combo, but you have to see the topper. It's really cool. You can see there, light cycle, you've got all the like mechanical details on there, like red accents. But the piece de resistance, press this little button, and yep, as you can see, it lights up. Full Tron style. Yeah, that was really cool. But anyways, Tron Ares, I'm back from seeing it. This is directed by Joachim Ronning, who of course is a pretty safe pair of hands for Disney, obviously having directed Pirates 5, Maleficent 2, and Young Woman and the Sea. The film's also exec produced by Joseph Kosinski, having directed Legacy. He wanted to get a sequel to it made, and obviously has the clout to do so, with his billion-dollar hit Top Gun Maverick. Unfortunately, Disney decided to go in a different direction. Jared Leto. But in fairness though, the trailers for this did look pretty promising. Promising, up to the minute, cutting edge visuals, and a score by 9 Inch Nails, all of that looked to indicate that this should at least be a great cinematic experience. But is this a welcome return for the Tron franchise? Let's find out. So the film follows two companies, Encom, run by Eve Kim, and Dillinger Systems, run by Julian Dillinger. The two companies are locked into a race against time to find a revolutionary piece of programming known as the Permanence Code. Kim intends to use the code to change the world for the better, while Dillinger intends to use it to program his advanced digital army led by super advanced super soldier Ares. However, the search for the code becomes a little more complicated when Ares deviates from his programmed directive as he begins to develop feelings. So obviously, this is a Tron movie, so you know basically what you're here for. You're here for the immersive, edge-of-your-seat audio-visual experience, one that exists very much on the cutting edge of digital effects technology. Obviously, if you're here for the cinematic experience of it all, yeah, you're likely not going to be disappointed, because the film really delivers the goods regarding the technical stuff. Now, obviously, story-wise, it leaves a bit to be desired, in Tron franchise tradition. The story here is, this MacGuffin treasure hunt for this, permanence code, which admittedly is a new direction for the franchise, but it is fairly surface level, basically existing to sort of tie together all its world building. And yeah, the world building stuff is, really cool as always. Really enjoyed journeying back into the grid, and they really expand on the grid in very interesting ways. Of course, brought to life with absolutely dazzling visual, an absolute feast for the eyes. Obviously, the effects are fantastic, incredibly stellar, really enhancing that sense of immersion. It's backed up by some really cool, sleek cyberpunk set design. It's absolutely beautiful, and I really enjoyed seeing all these different grids and their different looks. Yeah, it is a visual feast, backed up by some very entertaining action spectacle. Obviously, there's this really well done digital heist quite early on in the film, but there's also this sort of novelty factor of seeing Tron franchise staples spill out into the real world. We get a really well done light cycle chase, and we have a very entertaining set piece involving a recognizer. Seeing all these these Tron franchise staples in the real world is obviously very exciting, and it's seamlessly brought to life. It is just it is an absolute spectacle. And of course, the vibe is enhanced by a really, really cool techno score from Nine Inch Nails. Yeah, it is, brooding, it's, sleek. Yeah, it is fantastic. And you can just feel the pure bass under your feet. It is a great test for a cinema sound system. Yeah, obviously, we all miss Daft Punk. Daft Punk are great and wonderful, and, we miss them very much. But Nine Inch Nails are a more than worthy replacement, and yeah, the soundtrack they crafted absolutely fucks. It is so, so good. Now, in comparison, though, yeah, the character stuff is pretty thin. There are certainly some kind of interesting character arcs here, but they are again fairly surface level. Fairly rushed through stuff. But the acting, to its credit, is pretty solid across the board. I mean, obviously, leading this, we have Jared Leto as the titular Ares. And yeah, I'm gonna be honest, call me crazy here, but Jared Leto was actually pretty decent here. Yeah, obviously, as much as I dislike him for his weird method stuff and being a cult leader, yeah, he's actually not bad here, and I think his sort of more, I guess, charisma vacuum presence almost kind of works for him being this, like, soulless AI that, doesn't quite understand human feelings, and, he does have a kind of, interesting, if basic arc, learning this. Kind of a funny touch, though. Paul Allen finally gets his Huey Lewis and the News moment. You'll understand what I mean when you see it. There's fairly solid ensemble around him as well. Greta Lee as Eve Kim, who obviously is in search of the code to continue her sister's work. And sort of develops a thing for Ares again. Fairly interesting character and solid performance. Maybe some kind of wooden deliveries here and there, but I thought Lee did a perfectly fine job. We also have Evan Peters as the human villain of the film, Julian Dillinger, and yeah, he is really good here. You can really buy into him as this, soulless CEO who is willing to step on anyone and everyone to achieve his goals. You can just feel that pettiness just running through him, sort of like Lex Luthor without the baldness, basically, and minus 1A, of course. And he has a kind of interesting relationship with his mother Elizabeth, played by Gillian Anderson. Who's very much this sort of Ian Malcolm type figure, basically. Basically reminding him that so preoccupied with whether he could, he didn't stop to think of if he should. I enjoyed their whole relationship, and the two of them are great. A particularly interesting highlight is the sort of digital villain, Athena, played by Jodie Turner-Smith, who is, this menacing aura-farming presence throughout. She's incredibly tough as nails, badass throughout. Yeah, she is awesome. Now, obviously, the film exists in kind of a weird relationship with the Tron franchise overall. Like, on the one hand, the film very much reverently calls back to the original. Hell, Jeff Bridges is back as Kevin Flynn. There's a lot of callbacks to the film's, the original film's visuals, and of course, again, Flynn. Its relationship with Legacy, on the other hand, is kind of an odd one. On the one hand, it alludes to it and clearly wants to follow up in some capacity, but it never does anything with it. And the less we say about, our boy Tron's absence altogether, yeah, it's kind of a weird one. But I think as a standalone piece, it does mostly succeed. It does keep you very much entertained with a good, solid, reliable pace, and some solidly delivered emotional moments overall. But once again, you kind of can't help but feel this franchise hasn't quite lived up to its full potential. So overall, Tron Ares, while certainly leaving a bit to be desired in regards to story and characters, delivers an incredibly exciting big screen experience with its cutting-edge, stylish visuals and kick-ass Nine Inch Nails score. Definitely do see this one on the big screen because it is a great, great experience. Out of 10, Tron Ares gets a 7. So, let me know down in the comments, have you seen Tron Ares? What did you think of it? What's your favourite Tron film? What did you make of Jared Leto's performance? And would you one day like to see a proper sequel to Legacy? Let me know all that down in the comments. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you're new. And don't forget to turn on post notifications so you don't miss an upload.